Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation continues with the sixth sabad from Rag Sorat, Bani of Kabir Ji, and the recitation. Jih Bajh na Jia Jaie, jo mile ta kaal aghai, sad jeevan palo kahai, मुए बिन जीवन नाही. That one without which life cannot be lived, and that one in whose presence all our labors are fulfilled. That alone is called an eternal life. It is the good life, the virtuous life. But without dying, there is no real life. So this is the enigmatic and honorable Kabirji telling us that to live without being anchored in the source of creation, which is the indwelling self, Jih Bajh, without which it is no living at all. Because to live with vitality and to live creatively, the good life, one must first learn to die. What does he mean by that? Obviously, not a physical death, biological death, but psychological restructuring of the ego's illusions. So you see, the ego-centered mind, despite all its achievements, lacks a sense of fulfillment because it misidentifies itself at root, and it is that root that has to be changed. So this is framing dying to the ego as a necessary process for transformational. And that simply means deepening the quality of your life, existential deepening. The Rahao, ab kya kathiye gyan bichara, nij nirkhat ghat vyavhara, Rahao. Here, Kabirji is drawing the limits of intellectual knowledge and reflection. He says, now what more can be said of knowledge and reflection? Ab kya kathiye gyan bichara, in self-awareness, nij nirakhat, nirukt, it comes from nirukt, which means to examine. Gat vyavhara, watch the flow of your life. This reminds me of a quote that has stayed with me from Bertrand Russell, who said that an unexamined life is not worth living. Without self-examination, that is, and the awareness that comes with it, we are no better than well-fed pigs. So no matter how refined our intellectual speculation might be, it remains second-hand until a paradigm shift occurs. So that is the shift that has to come about by dissolving the ego, changing of one's perception. The second salok here, Kasku kam chandan garya, bin nenho jagat niharya, Poot pita ik jaya, bin thahar nagar basaya. Now he's talking about, this is actually Kabirji's poetic economy at its brilliance. He uses saffron and sandal, which are objects of verbs that are synonyms. Ghas and garya both mean to rub, to knead, to flatten into a paste. I will talk about that. But here he's saying, by rubbing, both saffron and sandal are kneaded into a paste. Without the eyes, binanano, yet the universe can be perceived. Of the child, Puth is the one father born, and without a foundation, yet a city can stand. What does he mean by these enigmatic lines? We'll talk about saffron and sandal, but let's talk about binnan. This is the inner process. What he's saying is that the eyes of perception are not physical eyes. You can perceive the world in its authenticity with the eyes of awareness. So he's talking about the eyes of awareness. And then how is it that the child is siring a father? What it means is that out of the mind which came to us, which is given to us by the Creator is revealed. The process is reversed. Without a foundation, a city can stand. The mind does not need a physical foundation. It is not resting on a physical foundation. So, this is about the inner work that one has to do. Kas and karya, they both mean kneading or smoothing out. So this is the alchemy of transformation. Saffron, this is the bringing of opposites, because saffron symbolizes the ego as emotional energy that colors everything it touches. But when it is rubbed with aberration, when it is pushed down or dissolved, its separateness melts and releases its color. So it's transmuted. Sandalwood represents awakened awareness or wisdom that is calm, that is steady and fragrant. When these are blended with the softened saffron, it absorbs the heat of the ego and spreads a calm, pure fragrance instead. So this is essentially saffron and sandalwood is the fusion of devotion and knowledge. And that is the awakened mind in balance. And with that, Kabirji says, Jachak jan data paya, so diya na jai khaya, chodya jai na muka, aur na pehjana chuka. He is describing the state where the beggar has found the giver. Jachak jan data paya, what is given by the giver cannot be taken away, nor can it be fully consumed. So diya na jai khaya, and once found, it cannot be forsaken. That's the gift of awareness that comes to us. This is the end of all external seeking, because the self, the soul, if you will, which has long been a beggar, has found its source. Now it's the master, and it has inexhaustible awareness, which no possession, no achievement, no relationship can substitute for. And when that is tasted, the mind no longer wanders. The search dissolves, comes to an end. In conclusion, जो जीवन मरना जाने सो पंच सैर सुख माने कबीर सो धन पाया हर भेटत आप मिटाया. So Kabir has found that state, har bhetat. I'm in the presence of the Har being by having dissolved my ego, and therein is the realization that life and death are one. They are two sides of the same coin. Such a mind is a natural leader of humanity, so panch, and they are in a state of constant contentment and happiness. This is a description of the realized human. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.